I did something horrible. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for what happened. Even now, after all these years, it is just unfathomable that all this could have occurred. It tears my mind asunder to know that I stole such a precious life from you, from the world. I so wish I could take away your pain.
Hello folks, I hope you all are doing great and having an awesome day and weekend. I've been having a great time myself. I woke up early even after hiking last night, and I've been slowly coming around thanks to plenty of coffee and with the help of my beast, Abby. I am Ira, your host, and I want to thank you for joining me for episode 8 of the DarkSide. Today we will be discussing an individual named Joshua Phillips. Before jumping into the story, I would like to say a few things. First, if you have a case you wish for us to review, please contact me. Feel free to message directly via Facecase, the Twitter, the comment section below, etc. I firmly believe the most interesting of situations and stories will originate from you, my friends. Be warned, this video may contain imagery and subject matter that some may find to be unsettling. Viewer discretion is definitely advised. It was November 3rd, 1998, when 8-year-old Maddie Clifton went missing in Jacksonville, Florida. When she was reported missing and police began searching for her, they started interviewing the neighbors. Almost immediately, they had a neighbor in mind as a suspect. That neighbor had been arrested and charged more than 15 years earlier in 2 sexual battery cases, although both times the charges against this individual had been dropped. He, interestingly enough, failed a lie detector test in relation to Maddie's disappearance, but provided an alibi. As it turned out, their suspect was the wrong man, but her murderer was indeed a neighbor. Hundreds of people would volunteer and search for Maddie, scouring the woods and dumpsters around the neighborhood. The search for Maddie would end a week after she first disappeared, but it wasn't searchers or police who found her body. It was Melissa Phillips, 14-year-old Joshua Phillips' mother, who found her. Thinking that her son's waterbed appeared to be leaking, she went to inspect it and found Maddie Clifton's decomposing corpse hidden underneath. She ran out of the house and immediately phoned the police. Joshua Phillips was at school when the discovery was made, and that's where he was arrested. Everyone was completely shocked, as you would imagine. The 14-year-old boy had absolutely no history of violence, and no one wanted to believe that he could be capable of murder. Josh confessed to the police that he had murdered her, but claimed it started off with an accident. Josh went on to state that they had been playing together, and he panicked after he accidentally hit Maddie in the head with a baseball. He carried her into the house, brought her into his bedroom, and put her on the floor, where she began to whimper and cry. He said he was afraid of his dad's reaction if he found Maddie in the house. He was scared, and he didn't want to get in trouble for hurting her, so in a panic, He beat her until she was on the verge of death with a baseball bat and stabbed her to keep her from screaming and crying. He then hid her body under his bed. You should also note that while the autopsy did not reveal any sexual assault, Maddie's body was found nude from the waist down, and it was determined that she had been strangled for a prolonged period of time. Before moving on, you have to be made aware of the Phillips family dynamic. Josh's father, Steve Phillips, a self-proclaimed hunkin' 6'6" man, dominated his wife and son with a violent temper and nasty disposition. Josh recalls at one point in his life when he walked into his parents' room to see his father's fist smash through a wall while in a fit of rage. That has somewhat of a Jack Nicholson feel to it, doesn't it, folks? Anyways, apparently Steve was also a drug addict as well as an alcoholic. When asked years later how he could go on with his life with her body hidden in his bedroom and under his mattress, he said that even though he made no conscious decision to, he just ignored it. He was in denial, and he couldn't believe in the reality of it, so he lived in a fantasy world like nothing had ever happened. When asked why this happened, Josh stated, and I quote, "I really don't know, not even to this day." Joshua Hurl Patrick Phillips, at the age of 14, was charged with first-degree murder in the death of his 8-year-old neighbor and playmate, Maddie Clifton. Due to the severity of the crime, he was charged and tried as an adult. His trial was moved to a different county due to the flood of media coverage in the Jacksonville area, which, by the way, is the pinnacle of moral aptitude, from what I hear. He was convicted of first-degree murder, and on August 20th, 1999, he was sentenced to life in prison without chance of parole. He was not eligible for the death penalty in Florida because he was under the age of 16 at the time of the crime. Since the trial, Maddie's parents have divorced, and Josh's father has died in a car accident. Josh, on the other hand, has been in the appeals process. In 2002, an appeals court upheld his original conviction. In late 2004, his mother, Melissa Phillips, began seeking a new trial. She believed that his age at the time of the murder should be taken into account in regards to his sentence. In the meantime, two of the officials who were involved in his sentencing have said they were having second thoughts. In 2005, new hearing dates were set aside for Josh Phillips. Their goal is to at least have the charges reduced to that of second-degree murder so that Josh might one day be eligible for parole. Despite this, his case is still going through the super slow appeals process. The U.S. Supreme Court made a ruling in 2012 that sentencing juveniles to a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibilities of parole is unconstitutional. It is unknown at this point if Josh's lawyer will use this ruling to seek a new sentence. As for my thoughts on Mr. Phillips, the fact remains that he killed a girl because he thought he might get in trouble with his pops because he wasn't allowed to have friends over when they weren't home. That's not too unreasonable in my opinion. Anyways, the vast majority do not view killing another person as an answer. Josh did though. When she became injured, instead of taking her for help, he chose to drag her inside his home, strangle her with a cord for several minutes, and when that didn't work, he proceeded to beat her with the bat, and when that didn't work, he stabbed her to death. That's not a simple mistake in judgment, folks. That's evil. With all that being said, I'm not entirely sure someone like Joshua can be rehabilitated, unless of course exorcisms become a common medical practice. Either way, it's difficult to say one way or the other if he is or ever will be fit for life outside of prison. What are your thoughts? Thanks for tuning in. I would love to hear your thoughts on this situation, case, as well as Joshua. Make certain to like and subscribe. Do me a favor and share this video while you are at it. It really helps, folks. Make certain to follow us via Twitter and the Facebook. Links are in the description.